How long does it really take to go from 25 to 10 to 15% body fat where you can actually see your abs for the first time? Every calculator says 5 to 6 months, but I just did it in 90 days. This is me. This is not an example. I've run this experiment on myself, and I've spent 6 years getting other people lean as a bean. And I wanted to run the numbers on myself. So I started off around 88 kilos, roughly around that 20% body fat mark. And my target is 10 to 13% body fat, which equates to around that 75 kilo range. So the math said I needed to lose 13 kilos of body fat. So I'll run you through my exact planning method for me as well as my clients. So the maths is actually super duper simple. On average, I plan to lose around 1% of my body weight each and every single week. I weighed around 87.5 kilos on average in week 1 of this diet. So at the start of a diet, 1% of my body weight equates to around 0.9 kilos. I planned in around a 1.2% loss for the first stage of this diet. For me, I'm a very big fan of going super duper aggressive at the start because body fat levels are higher. You've got more body fat stores to pull from. Now, after that first initial aggressive phase, I got injured. So as you can see, an injury for around 10 days. So I just had to maintain my body weight. But up until that point, I got down to an average of around 83 kilos using my fast aggressive approach. Then from there, the deficit resumed and I tried to lose again at 1.2%. But on average, I'm trying to lose around that 1% per week. To maintain that 1% per week, which is, by the way, the golden zone. You'll see people try to lose more than 1.2%. There's only a certain amount of people that can actually do that and sustain that. I'm definitely not one of those people. So 1% for me is the golden zone and rate of loss that you should be trying to lose each week. And to maintain that 1% loss, it's just about making small adjustments to your calorie intake, your steps, and your cardio to maintain it over the long term. However, there's things that nobody considers when planning a fat loss phase. Because on paper, most people would go conservative and instead opt out of taking the aggressive loss. Most people would try and lose around 0.5 kilos per week on average and go super duper slow. But doing so, that would double the length of time it would take me to get to that 10 to 13% body fat range, which for me, I did not want to do. I wanted to get it done quick, so I did it in 12 to 13 weeks. However, here's where it gets interesting. Because the reason I did it faster is the exact reason people shy away from it. And that is because of the muscle loss mistake. Now, that timeline only works if all of the weight coming off is purely coming from body fat and no muscle is lost whatsoever for it to go perfectly. Now, I actually used a 1,000 calorie deficit, which equates to around a 30% loss or reduction from my maintenance calories, which for a lot of people, that is quite a tough diet. However, I ignored it just for this experiment. Now you might be thinking, did your lift crash? No, they didn't. Most people expect your training performance to decrease when you're going through a diet, but realistically, for the first half of the diet, you should still be maintaining muscle tissue quite nicely and even building it as well. As you get toward the later stage of the diet, again, you should still see a performance increase. It only becomes an issue as you get super duper lean. And that's when we're talking sub 10% body fat. However, to see true muscle loss, you need to be doing something stupid. You need to be losing 2% plus of your body weight per week. So a 100 kilo male, they're losing 2 kilos plus per week. And if they're already in a lean set point position, that's the higher likelihood that muscle is going to be lost. However, if you're doing things correctly, you're eating enough protein, you're making sure you're training with at least 5 to 8 sets per muscle group per week, you're going to be absolutely fine. Here's the truth nobody warned you about. You are fatter than you think. The smart scales that you got that shoot up a bloody bioelectrical impedance thing up into your body, it's all a load of shit. They're not telling the true picture. Most blokes who think the 25% are most likely 30%. As blokes, we always like to underestimate how fat we actually are. And that 5-point error, that's another 5 kilos of body fat that you need to lose and another extra 2 months of dieting. So the key for me is I needed to be brutally honest about my start position. I would love to have said I was at 15% body fat, but realistically, I was starting off at 20%. Yes, that's not where I wanted to start, but it's just the reality of the situation. The cool thing here though is if you are starting in a higher body fat percentage, you can lose at a much more aggressive rate. Like I said before, you've got more body fat to pull from. And it is safer to lose more aggressively each and every single week, just like I did. One key thing to the planning process when it comes to myself and even that of my clients is making sure we plan for those life interruptions. The social event, the meals out, the birthdays, the weeks nothing moves on the scales, the weeks where you fuck up, the weeks where you might get injured and you have to eat at maintenance, the weeks where you get ill. All of these needs to be factored in, which actually adds on more time dieting. On paper, the diet timeline is clean, but in real life, like I said, shit happens, stuff gets in the way, you don't lose weight some weeks, you get fed up, you plateau, and there's weeks where you're going to be staring at the fridge at 10 p.m. at night and it's just going to be so hard to not stuff your face with food. But here's the thing, the people that quit most aren't just the ones that are really hungry. It's the people that expect it to be easier and a lot quicker to get to their goals. So how long does it really take to get to 10 to 15% body fat? Now, you can get there a lot faster than the calculators say if you take that more aggressive approach, which again is my preferred method. However, time is always the biggest reason why most people quit. They just want fast results. And it's the same with most people. It's the same with myself as well. Taking it slow, for me, it's just a bit of a waste of time. And people just don't diet for long enough and they don't lose anywhere near the amount of weight they need to get to the body of their dreams. For me, the setup and the strategy to get you to 10 to 15% body fat doesn't matter. I don't care how low your calories need to go, how much cardio and steps you need to do. All that matters for me as a coach and for my clients is that you get there no matter what. However, it does require proper planning. You need the honest maths, and fat loss, believe it or not, requires data, and it is a big math equation. And you've just got to plan it out with your starting body fat, your starting body weight, and then plan out a timeline where you're losing on average 1% body weight per week. And it is simple. Planning the fuck up weeks, the weeks where you plateau, the weeks where you're going to go on holiday, you've got your birthday trips, you've got your family days out, your illnesses, your holidays. Once you've planned all those weeks out, you've got a solid timeline. And then from there, you just need to execute. So depending on your start position, it's going to take you anywhere from 12 to 24 weeks to get to 10 to 15% body fat. However, if you are fatter, it's obviously going to take longer. And that, again, is just the simple reality and hard truth you need to face. See you on the next one in 7 days. Make sure you grab a copy of your free spreadsheet timeline. The one that I showed in the video today, you can get your hands on that if you click the link in my bio where it says free coaching. Sign up to it. You don't need any credit card or anything like that. All you need to do is get your hands on it and start planning out your next fat loss phase. If you need any help with anything, comment on this video or just reach out to me on Instagram or on YouTube and I'll be happy to help. See you bloody soon.